thought you were paying with it. Okay, so we got a pretty neat one here for you today, honestly. This is like a Don't BS Me poster child build. It it did incredible. And honestly, when he showed up here, I was like, "Oh man." Uh, I was getting hot on the dyno and I was adjusting some things. And I'm like, "Man, are your fans coming on?" And we're like, "There's no fans." So, no offense to Andrew, I was like, "Oh man, I hope this thing gets partway through this day and he can get everything rectified." And honestly, it blew me away. He did a fantastic job. He obviously has some talent here to kick this whole thing off. So as you can see, it was smoking pretty bad, but I think that has to do with just a little bit of the turbo placement and the drain not being great at all. So I think the turbo's fine because the amount of power it made was incredible. It did fantastic. So I don't think that's the issue at all. So it's pouring smoke. It's pouring a laughable amount of smoke, which honestly just makes it even funnier that it reliably made continual power throughout the day. Everything was ironed out. He has one of the best showings for what I don't even like people to buy the GT45 Turbo anymore, but he definitely represented it perfectly. And even as we progressed on throughout the day, we did use E85, but it was a mix, a little watered down. He made fantastic power, and I just want to go over it with you guys since he did so good. I want to give him a nice pat on the back. So I just rolled into it once or twice. Got 158 wheel here, got 248 horsepower here. So when I rolled into it, this is the data log for when I just rolled into it, which it just says roll into boost. I like to make ignition soft, 8 degrees. I like to put plenty of fuel in it, make sure everything's happy, and make sure boost level's off, which it did. Boost leveled off around 9 pounds. It had super safe air fuel and ignition in it. And as you can see, that was in high gear. And a hilarious thing about this car is it has 240 or 250 rear gears. So this is a Gbody car. I'm not entirely sure of the year. And he said he slapped this thing together in like less than 3 weeks. And I think it is a 5.3. It has a sloppy stage 2 cam. It has Deca 80-pound injectors. It has a Terminator X. It has, I believe, my plug-and-play flex fuel alternator wiring harness. I thought I saw it on there. It looks like an F-body radiator, no fans, Gen 3 truck intake, stock throttle, and an entire VS Racing Denma Don't BS Me turbo kit, which he said he bought used, or at least most of the parts used. I would say the only fancy thing on this car was it had a Hooker Holly turbo manifold setup on it, which he spent the money in the right spot because these cars are a total pain. Everyone ends up doing up and forwards to burn plug wires, and they compromise, and it was amazing. It fit so good. And he has the GT45 turbo on there. He built the front end. It has just the generic air to water kit, like everything normal. It looked like and it felt like a completely stock TH400 and converter. And it had it has a 10 bolt, whatever comes in these, the stock rear with the stock gearing and a 28-inch Mickey Thompson. One of them was pretty flat. Hellcat 525 pump. He ran a half-inch feed line, which definitely helped him out. So it was just hilarious to see. It reminded me, not to be an egomaniac, of something I would do. Like, all the money was in the right spots. This thing, it looked awful. It smoked like a bear, but it ran perfect. And we had no issues other than shutting it off after a pull or two to let it cool off, which it cooled off very quickly. So he essentially had no problems. He did fantastic. And the horsepower numbers show that too. So this was the second roll in with 250 wheel. I think I trimmed like fuel and some other stuff. And one of these is where I'm like, man, what gears are in this? Because it wants to go like a million miles an hour. So at some point I lifted, I think it was this one was still third gear. I was like, third is way too long. So I cleaned up fuel here. I put a tiny bit of ignition in it, and it picked up 100 rear wheel. And then once I could see that all of this stuff seemed good, flex fuel sensor was working too. Fantastic, right? Everything was working good. I hit it with a little bit more sane ignition and everything else because I had it so conservative. So you can see here, we're up into the 10-degree range here, and I believe this was second gear, 15 degrees, 11.5 air fuel, 10 pounds, made 401 wheel. It did fantastic. So you can see that right here, how quickly it woke up. In second gear, obviously not too long, and taking all of the, oh, I hope nothing happens out of the tune. Oh yeah, the torque is outrageous. Definitely disconnecting a lot on that hit, so we're going to turn it off. And then I ironed it out on 10 pounds, I believe. It made 455 wheel on 10 pounds. It did fantastic. So let's shrink this down and get it over here for you guys. Yeah, it came up on 10.8. It leveled off at 11. So it made 455 on 11 pounds and 15 degrees. And then we hit it with 14 pounds. He had a boost controller and it actually worked. So we made 499 tire on 14 pounds. And how much ignition do we have in it? Here, let's get it over here for you. I wish it would default to that window. Work on that another day. So 14 pounds, like 13.8 up top here, you know, 14.0 average, I'll call it. 14 pounds, 14 degrees, made 500 wheel as advertised all the time. So I believe we immediately went to the mixed fuel and it picked up 553. Was this still on? I think boost fell off too. Let's take a real quick look at this. 14 pounds, 17 degrees, made 553 already. And then as we 571, 618. And this was funny. I believe when I made 550 and 570, I said, if everything is perfect, this turbo maxes out in the low 600s. So I bet we crack 6, but I don't know how high we will get above 600 rear wheel. And I said, this is fantastic. You guys did a fantastic job. I'm proud of what you did for the information I put out there. This is literally the bottom of the barrel of all this stuff. They loaded, I believe, Brett's tune and turned off the stuff they did not need by themselves and used the flex table and changed the fuel flow for the injector amount. So they loaded a tune for Sneak Eater 1000s, just changed the injector flow amount to 80 pounds. Start, runs, drives, everything's good. We mixed up flex fuel and everything. And right here, 633, that is the turbo's just capped because as you can see, 14 pounds, 19 degrees. So when we tried to make more boost, so this is 620. Here's what happens when these turbos cap out. They can't deliver the air. So it hit 17 and it fell to 16. And I'm like, well, we can push this thing and we can see what happens. Let open this log if I drop it. So this is 633. So you can see here again, it spiked about 19 and then immediately fell all the way to 17 degrees. So this was 17 pounds, 18 degrees. You know, I think I pulled a little bit out after this, but that's what it seemed to like. But the turbo is out. It is definitely done flowing air. But what's cool to see is it did it, and it can do it. And this was at 37% flex. So it might even make a tiny bit more if we get that closer to 50%. But in my experience, these turbos quit at the low 6. Actually, most of them quit at 610. So to make 630 through an unlocked TH400 is fantastic. Part of the reason why it had such a good showing, in my opinion, which I could be proved wrong, is because it is a stock torque converter and it doesn't necessarily have any slip built in. So it's neat to see, again, the process of just turbo cars just growing that power. And then the other interesting thing is this is an incredibly simple combo. And he's like, I said, dude, go right to a 373 gear and that Jegs XHD converter, and this thing will fly. It'll really be fast. It'll be pretty crazy how it is. Just maybe go into your TH400 if it doesn't have any mods and do that. You know, people do like the dual feed mod and whatever else, but incredible job. He did fantastic. So he should be proud. I think he was taking it to Ocean City. God knows why you would take a car down there. I hope it survived. I hope he's okay. But yeah, it'll be neat to see what else he does and if he does turbo upgrades or if he just races it as is. Like I said, this even with this Gbody, if it's on the heavier side, if you have that converter and it can foot brake decent, this thing will fly. It'll touch a high 9 no problem with a good 60 foot and the 373 and a decent converter. So he's like 500 bucks away from having a high 9-second car. Just got to keep it together. That's it. So hope you guys enjoyed. Incredible Dontbsme style clone, smashing out power again, even with the Spy Hunter smokescreen active.